All right. Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of the Liberty Dad podcast, a discussion on politics and culture. If you're tuning in live, thank you so much for giving me your time so early. Do me a favor, folks, if you enjoyed the show, be sure to like and subscribe to my channel. And for the really serious folks out there, hit that bell so that you never miss an episode. I'm going to ask for another favor. Can people hear me? Because I've got an audio issue going on here and I don't know what's going on. I don't really know why. But so just kind of throw a comment in there and say, hey, yeah, DL, we can hear you. Everything's good to go on our end. And we'll call that a day. I don't know what's okay. Good. So we've got some people saying that we can hear me. Some things over here are not, I'm just not hearing them. So I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, so that's not working. Okay, so for some reason, I've got an audio disconnect here, and I don't know what's going on. So my clips today may or may not play, but we'll go forward anyway because, well, we're live, and the show must go on. So it is what it is. I'll figure it out later, and just technology. That's just the way to. I'm getting old. I'm 46 now. And I need my son here to come and tell me how to use the remote. That's probably really what's going on here. But one way or another, we'll continue. All right. So what do we got today? First and foremost, I want to tell you the holiday schedule coming up. I am not going to be live streaming next week. So do not expect any live streams. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go on vacation. I'm visiting my dad up in another state, up Michigan. So going to be very, very cold next week. And so you're not going to want to hear me podcasting anyway, because all I'll do is gripe about it. All right. But I'll be gone. However, and today I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break from the immigration rabbit hole. And, but Monday and maybe Tuesday, I'm expecting to have a pre-recorded episode. So I know some people that are Venezuelan asylees. They're here on asylum. Very good people, very industrious, by the way. And I was talking to him and I was like, hey, you want to be on my podcast and talk about the asylum process and kind of like just your thoughts as an immigrant about the conversation that we're having? And so one of them agreed. Maybe both will be on the show. I don't know. We'll find out. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be awesome. So look forward to that. And I expect to pre-record that over the weekend. We weren't able to do it this morning. One, my internet was out, so there was that issue going on this morning. And then number two, they have to work and I have to work. So, just schedules were more aligned for the weekend. So we'll do a pre-recorded show. So I think it's going to be awesome. And honestly, I have no idea what they're going to say about this. Now we've had some conversations in the past, but on this particular topic, in depth, related to the political climate, we've not really had a lot of conversation. So a lot of this will be new to me. So it'll be fun. I look forward to that, and I look forward to delivering that episode. And it might be 2 episodes, and just if it goes long, that I might break it up into 2 different episodes, like part 1, part 2. That way, you guys can watch it in small chunks. Anyway, so that's what we've got going on. So today, instead, what I'm going to do is just my musings of a Liberty Dad, where I just kind of cover a couple different topics that are not really related to each other. So the first one is about a mother that got arrested, and I'm going to try to play this video, but I think, and I'm going to play it, and tell me if you hear the audio, and if you're telling me that you don't hear the audio when I play the video, then we'll just stop the video. And luckily, I have some articles, and we could just talk about it instead. So we'll go from there. So let me play that and see if we're gonna have any luck with this. And let me try to do one more thing here and just see if this will make everything all better. A couple clicks here and there, and then let's go ahead and give it a shot. And I mean, I'm not hearing it. Are you guys hearing the audio of this playing right now? Got a major problem here. I don't think you're hearing it either. I don't think it's coming through. Anybody? Let's see. I'll wait for the comment. Okay, so I got one comment that says no audio. So what in the world? I will try to do something here. Um, yeah. So we're okay. So we're just gonna stop it. Whatever. We will do something different. Luckily, I have a backup plan. And we will go to this article here. So, mother fighting to child endangerment charges after her son walks alone less than a mile from home. So, what in the world is going on here? Let's take a look. So, let's zoom in a little bit here. A Georgia mom is refusing to strike a plea deal after all this stuff on this is why I don't like to do the browser stuff. She's refusing to strike a plea deal after she was arrested on child endangerment related charges over her 10-year-old son's unsupervised walk into town. Brittany Patterson, 41, of Mineral Bluff, Georgia, was arrested by the Fannin County Sheriff's Department on October 30th after she let her son home alone. She left her son home alone, and he wandered less than a mile into town. So there's the woman and there's her son. All right. Goes on to say the Fannin County Sheriff's Department initially called the mom to alert her to the fact that her son Soren was unaccompanied in the town located near the North Carolina border. It's not a super dangerous or even dangerous at all stretch of road, Patterson told the outlet, referring to the street that leads from their rural home to the town of Mineral Bluff. I wasn't terrified for him or scared for his safety. Deputies drove Soren home and hours later returned to handcuff and arrest her in front of her family. Patterson was booked on suspicion of reckless conduct and posted a $500 bond, according to the report. Let's see here. Let's get past all the pictures. The mom said she was angered and frustrated that her child had to witness her being handcuffed and booked by police. You know, I would be too. Like if the police showed up and they were like, "We're going to arrest you because your kid walked to the store to buy some candy or whatever he was doing, and we called you earlier and you weren't terribly concerned, and we were cool with dropping him off, like, and left. Now we're back because we decided we don't like it." I'd be pissed too. Patterson has rejected an offer to drop the charges, arguing they are entirely unwarranted. Totally agree. The sheriff's office has offered to drop charges if Patterson signs a form that outlines a safety plan for her kids. She and her lawyers say, according to NBC, "This is not right. I did nothing wrong." She said, "I'm going to fight for that." And so she is actually refusing to sign this document. I would too. I would absolutely refuse. I would be like, no, enough is enough. This is nonsense. Like at some point, we have to rely on parents to understand who their kids are. If you call up a parent and you say, "Hey, we found your son walking down the street." And if she's like, "Yeah, I'm not really that concerned, but can you please take him home? He wasn't supposed to be." This is my understanding of the story. Is that basically what happened was they called her up and they said, "Hey, we found your son." And she wasn't alarmed, but she said, "Hey, will you please drop him off? He's not supposed to be." And I think I read somewhere that she was a little annoyed that he left without her permission, but not that she was upset about him walking into town. And so at some point, we just accept that parents know their children. And I'm seeing comments in here like Tommy the coffee addict here says, "I've walked more when I was younger." Geez. Yes. Yes. In fact, let me show you some images because at least the images are going to work around here, even though the audio is not. So here's an image up on the screen for you guys. And if you're just listening to the audio, that's fine. I'll describe it. This is a picture, this is a map from Dayton, Ohio, when I was in fifth grade. So, right about in the middle there ish, maybe, yeah, kind of the middle, it says Maine and Helena. So that's where a school that I used to attend was. And then on the top part, you can see where the little pin is dropped. That's where I lived. And then down at the bottom, where like close to the word Dayton, where it says East Fifth Street, that's roughly about where I got on the bus. So this is an incomplete map. But what I'm showing here is that in the morning when I was in fifth grade, my mom and my dad worked, and my mom had to be at work at like 5:30 or something, some crazy early hour. Okay. And I didn't have to be at school till like 7:30 or 8 or whatever time it was. And my dad, I think he worked night shift, so therefore he wouldn't get home until like 8, sometime after I went to school. And so what happened, my mom would wake up in the morning, get ready to go to work, wake me up, get me ready. We would go over to her work. She worked at a restaurant. And then I would sit there for like 30, 45 minutes, maybe an hour. And maybe I would help out, while, roll some silverware or something like that. And then there was a specific time where, okay, now it's time for me to go catch the bus. So what my mother did was she mapped out the bus route, and then we went and we followed the bus route. We literally went over. She parked her car at the restaurant, and then we we got on the bus and rode the bus so I could see exactly where I needed, and then walked to the next bus stop. So the bus from my mother's restaurant, or not her restaurant, but the restaurant she worked at, to the middle of downtown was where I had to change to a different bus. And that's the part that I don't have on the map because I don't remember the name of the restaurant. I don't remember even approximately where it was. I just really don't. I was in 5th grade, so bear with me, okay? And so that part is left out of the map. So I kind of started it downtown where I at least could remember being. And this portion from downtown to the school and then again to my house is a total of 2.5 miles that I was riding a city bus in 5th grade all by myself. Okay. I had my little bus card. And I would get on the bus, but I had to exchange. I had to change buses at downtown. And so even though it shows 2.5 miles from downtown to my school, then on to home, it was actually further than that. So I would say it's probably a good 5 altogether, maybe 5, 6 miles altogether, you know, that I was traveling again by myself in 5th grade, every day for school, Monday through Friday. And that was what I had to do with all these adults and some weirdos, because that's how city transit is. And I was just fine. Now I get it. You can't just be like, well, I did this and I was fine. So therefore every kid's going to be fine. But the reality is that sometimes parents have to do certain things, right? Like, and they have to, at some point, you have to put some trust into your kids. Say, I know that my kid can do this thing. My mom, apparently, even though I was a hellion, and I was, even though I was a hellion, she was like, all right, you're going to have to find your way to school. And so she put a little bit of faith in me. Turns out I was able to do that. Now, I assume that part of that faith reflects this next picture. So, this next picture so that was when I lived in Dayton. This next picture is when I lived in Las Vegas. And so, here is a picture of, so I went to school. I went to elementary school at a place called Hewitson Elementary School. And I want to say that it was Holly Hewitson. And maybe they've changed names or it's just not updated on the map. I don't know. But anyway, so that's where I went to school. And then you can see that I've showed the walkway all the way to my house. And somewhere around 2nd or 3rd grade, I would walk home. I would walk to and from school. And so this is a half a mile. But what makes this really interesting is this East Bonanza Road here is a 4-lane highway or a 4-lane road. So it's not just like crossing the street in your neighborhood. So I was a 2nd grader, or maybe 3rd grader. No more than 2nd or 3rd grade. And I walked to and from by myself every day because mom and dad had to work. So as one of my friends on Twitter said, latchkey kids for the win. Because that's what I was. I was a latchkey kid. And we survived pretty damn well. So this idea that like a 10-year-old, it requires arresting the mother is absolutely absurd. And we as a society should absolutely reject it. It's ridiculous. Now, I was thinking about something. Remember the movie The Goonies? So I was just curious. And the reason I'm thinking about it is because my son and I just watched it like a week ago. And he really likes it. Sometimes he'll just be like, Goonies. Yes, yes, Goonies. Um, but from my little bit of research, I was just curious about something. And so the kids that were in that film were somewhere between 12 and 15 years old, depending on which one you're talking about. But the characters that they played were like somewhere around 11 and 12, right? So it's pretty close to 10. And they went on adventures. They would go bike riding. They did all this stuff. They would just go out and about with all their friends. And that's the life that I remember. I remember Saturday, you were excited. Sunday too, after church, but Saturday, you were really excited because you got up, you ate your breakfast, did whatever chores that you had to do, and then you went out and you found your friends and you didn't come back until the street lights came on. Or maybe you came back for lunch, right? But I would be out like all day. And in that particular case, I'd go riding my bicycle and I would tell my mom where I would go. She would generally check up on me, but there were times where I was maybe not where I was supposed to be, or I ventured a little further than I was supposed to. But I can assure you, I went with her permission. I went way further than a mile. A local park that I used to go to and this was in that time frame when I was in elementary school. I was in Dayton, Ohio. One of the parks that I would go to on the regular with my friends was like easily a mile and a half away. It was a fair distance, and I had to cross not a major road, but a road that had a significant amount of traffic, And so I was capable of doing this. Me and my friends were capable of doing this. We rode our bikes all over the place. We got into all kind of trouble. This is how kids should be able to live. So I think, without any further information, I think that the police were absolutely in the wrong, and they should be embarrassed. Maybe somebody even should be suspended. And that sounds drastic, but I want you to think about this. They arrested a mother for being a mother, right? Like they called her up and said, "Hey, your son's walking. Okay, take him home. No big deal. I'll talk to him when I get home." That's being a mom, right? She made a decision. Oh, this is not something to worry about. I will handle it. I've got this under control. That's being a mom. And this isn't the first time. You can go look up. There are stories where, you know, somebody's like, I think there was a story one time where like someone's two children, one was like 8 and one was like 11. The mom let them walk to the park that was like a half a mile down the road, and the police showed up, and I think she got arrested too. Like, this is not a one-time incident. Like, this happens not regularly necessarily, but it happens way too often. We need to stop. Allow parents to be parents. Like, we're all crying about parents and parental responsibilities and parental rights and all that. And then we get the nanny state to come in and be like, "Nah, we'll tell you what you're allowed to do by arresting you." That's just absurd. And so the time that they spent, my libertarian peers will understand this. There is a cost to this, right? Um, the time they spent dealing with this woman being a parent was time that could have been spent doing anything else, something else, revisiting an old case file, going and saying, "You know what? We need to, we got a backlog of this stuff. Let's go do this." Clean up. Seriously, officers, you would have been better off just cleaning the police station than arresting this woman. So totally object. Absolutely ridiculous. Yes. Time surfing and says, "Heck, mom would make us go out and say, 'Don't come back till lunch.'" Yep. I remember that. I don't know how many friends I had. We would, yeah, this story happened a lot between me and my friends and people that I knew. You would get grounded. Mom would be like, "You're grounded because you did something wrong." And then, maybe that was like a Thursday that you got grounded. Hey, you're grounded for the weekend. You grounded until Monday. And so then Saturday would come and you'd be in the house, kind of bored. Maybe it's 11 a.m., somewhere around there. And your mom would be like, "What are you doing in the house?" You're like, "You grounded me." And they're like, "Just go play. Get outside and go play and come back when the street lights are on." And and as a kid, I knew, because the streetlights didn't all come on at the same exact time. So I knew exactly which ones came on when. I knew exactly how to time it. So like if I was a distance away and a street light came on, I knew whether or not the street light that was by my house was on or not. Right. And that was important. That was the important one. The rest of them, my mama didn't care about. She only cared about the one that she could see when she looked out the window. And if that light was on and I wasn't home, then I was in trouble. But that story happened all the time, and we survived just fine. Now, are there predators out there? Yes. Are they snatching up kids left and right out there? Going to the park, walking to town? Not really. Most of your abductions are actually people that you know. So they're gonna find you anyway, right? It's that crazy uncle, that creepy uncle that kidnaps you, or the mom and the dad are having a dispute, and the dad steals the kid and drives across town, and then the woman chases him in her own car, and they have this epic battle. I'm sorry, that's a Lifetime movie. But point being, the problems that you have from strangers are generally not actually strangers. I mean, there are some of those too, but those are few and far between. So on this one, I'm standing with the mom. Totally. And I'm glad. I'm absolutely glad that she's refusing to sign that. Do not sign that. No. Stand up for your rights and say, no, this is garbage. I'm a good parent and you have no business treating me otherwise. End of story. All right. So there's that. What else we got next? This one is going to be kind of tough because it does kind of rely on the video. But I think we can get through it because I do have a news clip. But I wish I knew what was going on with the audio here. And unfortunately, there's nothing for me to do. So I don't know. I was trying to think if there's any ideas that I might have. We'll just do it by the web. We'll do what we can. So I've often in the past told people that the free market is brutal. Okay, what I mean by that is the free market will shut you down and not care about your circumstance, not care what happens to you, nothing. Now, the free market is not some specific entity, it's just a myriad of transactions that occur. So if I own a restaurant and let's say I get infested with cockroaches, right? And then I get that cleaned up. Well, cleaning it up may do me no good. The free market might say, nope, and my business may shut down. There may not be a second chance. And it doesn't matter whether I'm at fault or, maybe I'm in a complex and it's, the infestation came from a neighboring facility. None of that matters. The only thing that matters is how the customers felt. So here in this story, so this is out of Memphis. There's a florist that decided that she didn't want to work with Trump folk. So here's the story. The headline: Memphis florist refuses to work with Trump supporters and temporarily shutters business after backlash grows. So I initially came across this by a video that I unfortunately cannot show you. I mean, I could show you, but there's no audio, so it'd be kind of pointless. But so we'll just read this. So here's a picture of the woman, and why is somebody needs to tell these web developers that stop using up all the real estate on the web page. But anyway, so this woman, she owns a Memphis floral shop called Everbloom Design. So a Memphis florist who refused to serve customers who voted for President-elect Donald Trump has been forced to close up shop temporarily after receiving nasty backlash over her decision. So in the video, she starts off and she's saying like, no, I'm not going to serve. Somebody reached out and said, hey, can you do a floral arrangement that, celebrates Trump winning? And she said, absolutely not. No way. I'm not going to do business with Trump. And apparently on her social media, more than once over the last few months, she has come out with her strong political opinions and how she was not going to do business with Trump supporters. Now, look, I'm cool with that. Doesn't bother me. Okay. Not because I'm not in Memphis, because it's your business. You can decide how you want to run it. And I will go further than most people because I would say, look, you can hire who you want to hire. You cannot hire who you don't want to hire. You can do it for any reason that you choose, whether I like the reason or not. And you can decide who you want to do business with. I could walk in there. I'm 5'3". I could walk in there and you could say, sorry, we only serve people that are 5'5" or taller. So you're going to have to leave. Okay, that's cool. And I'm not going to ask the government to do anything to you. Now, will I get on social media and trash you? Maybe. Depends on how I'm feeling that day. I might get on there and be like, I can't believe these people. They don't want to serve short folk. What the hell's wrong with them? Right? So I might get on and complain about it on social media if I'm feeling punchy. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I'm not going to force you to serve me for any reason because it's your business. And I see your business the same as your house. I have no right to your house anymore. I have no right to your business any more than I have a right to your house. It is yours. You paid it. You paid for it. You're putting all the blood, sweat, and tears, all the sweat equity. You're putting all that in there. You're taking all of the risk for whatever it is. You're taking risk if you say, all right, I'm going to try out this new cool product and I think it's going to be a big hit. And so then you buy a whole bunch of things and then maybe it is a big hit and you get rewarded for it. Or maybe it's not a big hit and you take a hit financially because you maybe spent $10,000 and you didn't sell much of anything. So you lost most of it, right? Like that's up to you. That's your business. And since you're the one taking the risk, I look at it and I say, you should have full rights to dictate how this all operates, including who can enter your store, who can buy from you, who you hire, who you fire, all that good stuff. So for me, no issue here, right? No issue legally. I'm not going to try to stop you. That doesn't mean that I think it's a good idea. So let's continue reading what happened. So Everbloom Design owner Kristen Walter announced her shop would be closed through the end of the week, quote, due to threats to me and my business, end quote, since laying down her controversial sales policy last week, according to the Daily Mail, citing a statement on the business's now private Instagram. Okay. She goes on to say, or it quotes her saying, I knew standing up for what I believe in would have consequences. They are showing their true colors and lack of decency and humanity. Now, I will say this. If you are calling and threatening people, that is wrong, legally and morally. Like I am okay with legal punishments. If you call up and say, I'm going to burn down your shop because you won't serve me, you should face legal consequences because that is a threat to the owner and all the people in there, any customers that are in there. That's a threat to their private property for which they have exclusive access to, right? Like they own it. You cannot damage somebody's stuff and you cannot impose upon somebody to live in any kind of fear whatsoever. So I completely oppose that. Now, if you want to call up and say, hey, I think you're retarded for not serving Trump, I mean, I guess you could call that free speech. I'm not a big fan of it. I wouldn't do it myself. That's not how I conduct business. But if it's just expressing how you feel without involving threats, then I'm going to say that's free speech, even if it's not the best use of it. So continuing on, and this is from the video that you would have seen. But some thought it was Walter who showed the lack of humanity. I don't know about that either. Okay. I don't know that if you don't want to do business with somebody, I don't know if I would call that a lack of humanity. To me, a lack of humanity is like if somebody's drowning and you won't help them and you won't call for help and you're like, hey, you're on your own, figure it out. Hope you make it. That's a lack of humanity. So I think we should be very careful how we use our words. So let's see. I won't do business with people who support the president-elect, she said in a video posted to her shop's Instagram, which was made private after the clip went viral on social media. Here's what she goes on to say. It is because I need to create a safe place for me, my staff, and my family. Okay, so let me tell you, no, you don't. You might feel that way and it's your business, so you can run it as you want. But I'm going to disagree with this sentiment and say, no, if you are a business owner, your job is not to create a safe place for staff and family on the basis of who got elected legitimately. That's not. Now, if you want to say, hey, I want to make sure that customers aren't coming in and being aggressive and customers aren't threatening, that is where you make a safe place. Yes. If you want to say, hey, look, I want peace and harmony. So if I hire you, you are not allowed to mock and make fun and ridicule the other employees. Okay. Good with that as well. That's directly related to your business. But who gets elected in an election? No. And then people are just coming in that want to do business. That is not an unsafe environment. You may not want to do business with them, but it's not an unsafe environment. If I come in and I said, I voted for Chase Oliver, and as condolences for him losing, I want you to create a floral arrangement that I'm going to send to him. And then you turn around and go, whoa, whoa, whoa. I don't know about you libertarians. Y'all are crazy. You hate roads and everything. So therefore, I'm feeling this is an unsafe place right now. It's not unsafe. It's perfectly safe if I'm coming in and asking to do legitimate business. That is not an unsafe place. If I'm coming in and threatening you or harassing you, that would be unsafe. And in that context, yes, it is your obligation to do something. So on Monday, Walter shared some vile voicemails she received since making her announcement, with callers phoning in from across the country to express their views in no uncertain terms. This is what I mean when I say the free market can be more brutal than regulation. Now, this is the free market. In some ways, it's a bastardization of the free market. In my view, the most proper form of the free market would be people who are actually potential customers calling in and saying their piece respectably. So if I lived in Memphis and I called them up to express my dissatisfaction and say, hey, I think this is a bad business move and I don't like it. So therefore, I'm going down to the other florist down the road and you're not going to get my business. That is an appropriate perspective. That is how the free market operates at its best, in my opinion. But since I'm not in Memphis, if I call from Florida and I say, hey, I'll never do business with you, well, the likelihood that I was going to do business in the first place is pretty low. It's not zero. I might have friends or family in Memphis that I might, Google and say, oh, here's a florist. Let me call them up and see if I can't get some flowers, to my friend or family that's in Memphis. So it's not totally out of the question. But I think most people that are doing this were unlikely to ever become a customer of the business. They're just angry people calling up. The other thing, I don't exactly know who they are. So here's some of the comments, which I object to, and I think they're wrong. Hey, lady, you're one dumb. See you next Tuesday. That's somebody that was somebody from Texas. Being hateful is going to backfire on your ass, bitch. That was from somebody from Georgia. Let's see what else. Take your effing ugly face and your effing ugly glasses and your disgusting family and go cry because we won. We won. This is MAGA country for at least 4 years. Suck it up, buttercup. That's somebody from Chicago. Now, this is the one that kind of gives me pause because I was like, wait a minute. Didn't that story about Jesse Smollett, whatever his name is, wasn't that out of Chicago where he basically said the same thing, that somebody assaulted him, beat him up, and yelled, "This is MAGA country," and then ran off, and then we turned out it was totally fake? I just can't help but thinking that this, like, not saying that she faked it. I'm saying that maybe somebody else faked it, and maybe she did. But if there's an actual voicemail, then and they could verify that this was from Chicago, then maybe she's not faking it. But maybe this person isn't actually a Trump supporter. Maybe this is just somebody that wants to make Trump supporters look bad. False flags happen all the time. I grew up with them when I was a kid. Somebody would do something and blame it on someone else, right? Like, this is not out of the ordinary. Like, people do this. But I just can't help but notice, like, somebody's attacking her from Chicago, where we had the Jesse Smollett situation. Here's another one. Hey, you stupid effing, see you next Tuesday. You blew up your own business, a caller from Minnesota said. Here's your effing safe space. You're not going to make your mortgage this month, and your effing business is going to go down to effing nothing. F you, bitch. Okay. That person, asshole. Just gonna say it. I know I try to keep it family friendly on here, but there's not really too many words that are appropriate for family ears that to describe somebody like this. You're just an outright insufferable, intolerable, terrible person. Maybe that's a good way to do it. But you're not a good person if this is and I don't care whether you mean it or you're doing it. Well, it's even worse if you're doing it to make somebody else look bad. If this is like a red flag situation, then yeah, you're even worse for that. But this is just terrible behavior. It's unacceptable. And you know me, I defended the lady that The Home Depot lady, number of episodes back, the one that had got on social media and after Trump was shot, and then she made a casual comment like, "Too bad the shooter didn't miss," or something like that, which was inappropriate. Okay, it's inappropriate, but it is free speech, and I will defend it. And then people hunted her down, found her at her job, videotaped her, said they were going to make her go viral, posted it all over social media, and the woman got fired from Home Depot, as Home Depot confirmed. Right? That was unacceptable to me. This is unacceptable. Like if you're just mad at somebody and you're trying to bully them out of business because you don't like their foolishness, I like I have an issue with that, and I will speak out against it. It doesn't matter whether I think that you should be able to say mean things about people or to people necessarily, but I can also come back and say, just because you have free speech doesn't mean this is a good use of it. And so I can criticize you with my free speech and say, no, it's unacceptable. You are a terrible, awful person, period. All right. Some accused Walter of discrimination and threatened lawsuits, but in Tennessee, they would have little legal ground to stand on. Well, morally, I agree. You should not be able to sue them. Again, it's her business. If she wants to not do business with any group of people for any reason, that's up to her. And I don't believe that you should have any grounds to file a lawsuit and say, no, I'm going to force you. This is basically the bake the cake, right? No, you do not have to. In the same way that the Christian person, in my opinion, should not have be legally obligated to bake a cake for a gay couple for their wedding. And that was the objection. They didn't want to do it for the wedding. In the same vein, I'm going to say, you know what? If you're a liberal and you voted for Kamala Harris, or you just happen to oppose Trump, and then you want to say, I'm not doing business with people who supported Trump, I support you nonetheless. Exactly the same. Now, I think it's unwise. I think there are better ways to approach this. Let's see. Anything else in the article? I don't know why that. Let's see. The state overwhelming. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Walter had previously expressed disdain for Trump supporters. Here they're quoting her. I will make it perfectly clear. I will not do any business with or support anyone that supports Trump. The lives of my children depend on it. She wrote on Instagram in July, just 2 days after the former president was wounded in an assassination attempt. So again, totally freedom of speech there. I defend her right to say that. I defend her right to make that decision as a business owner. But I do think it's unwise. Now, what would a better strategy be, in my opinion? Number one, first of all, let's get some reality here. The expectation of your business is that you'll sell flowers and floral arrangements for all sorts of occasions. That's the expectation publicly. Now, that doesn't mean that you have the legal obligation, or you should. Okay, that just means what are people going to think? I drive by, I see a flower shop, and I think I can go there to buy flowers for various occasions, any occasion that I want. Maybe maybe I'm just a single guy and I want to celebrate my birthday by myself with a nice floral arrangement. I can go there and say, I'm buying myself a birthday present, right? Doesn't have to be for somebody, doesn't have to be the more formal and understood occasions. It could be any occasion, right? So that's cool. If I get this idea in my head, like, hey, I want to celebrate um, the president winning. Okay, a little odd to me, but it's fine. It's an occasion, something somebody might celebrate. Okay. And so I might think I'll go here and get some flowers. And if she might say, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to participate in that. That's cool too, right? So you have competing interest. So how would she better be able to handle that? Well, if you don't want to support Trump in any way, then simply tell people you don't do political orders. Just leave it at that. Now, if you want to make it clear, I don't want to support Trump people, I don't want to do business with Trump people, that's fine. But you are cutting off like roughly 50% of the population. That's not really a good business decision, because that means you're going to rely on the other half to maintain your business, to bring in enough sales so that the revenue allows you to pay all of your bills and maybe have a little bit of extra. So for me, I look at it and say, this is a bad business decision on her part, but she is allowed to make it. Whether I think it's a good idea or not, I have no issue with her making it, and she should be permitted. And people should be permitted to call up and express their disapproval. But I do draw the line and say, if you're making a threat, that's unacceptable and you should be held accountable for it. And if you're just being nasty, um, like, I don't know that any legal repercussions should come your way, but I have no problem with her releasing the voicemails and saying, and if somebody gets on there and says, "My name is John and I think you're a dumb idiot, blah, blah, blah," whatever, right? Like, I have no issues if somebody wants to later publish that information. And then maybe someone goes, "That sounds like, I know that John, that sounds like him." And then I get discovered. Okay, well, that's the way it is. You chose to use your free speech in that way. And guess what? You got caught. And maybe people will, now maybe other businesses won't do business with you, right? Like, to me, this is the essence of the free market. People making individual decisions based on whatever they want. And then I can come along later as a good old fashioned, or new fashioned, I guess, podcast bro, and criticize you and say, well, you should have thought about that. So for me, I would have just said, I don't do political orders, and I would have done my best to separate my business from my politics, and I do that even on this show. So, like, you don't generally see, like, I never talk about where I work, because where I work is completely distinct from this podcast. So I don't talk about it, and I don't mix the two. Um, Same thing with my wife's business. We talk about, sometimes I will talk about that she does real estate, and every great once in a while, I may post something that kind of indicates where she works. But for the most part, I keep this line, this demarcation line, this delineation between our business and my political views, and I do that on purpose, because I just don't think it's appropriate. I don't think it's in the best interest of anybody to mix them. Now, if you choose to, okay, but you accept what may happen. And you might remember a few episodes back, I don't know, maybe 10 or so, I was talking about, becoming a man. And it's really more like becoming an adult. But one of the elements of becoming an adult is making decisions and living with the consequences, good or bad, right? And so what I do is I say, well, are the negative consequences something that I want to face? If not, then I try not to do it, or I try to do things that will mitigate negative consequences. So if I'm a business owner and I know it's a sharp election and people are heated, then maybe I keep my political opinions a bit separate. That way, I can voice my opinions and I can have a successful business at the same time. Because if I have employees, well, yeah, I kind of have an obligation to run a store that's profitable so that they can get paid and they can pay their bills and also be a productive member of society. That's the obligation that you have. You don't have an obligation to create these safe spaces from people that you don't like and won't meet. Like, I don't even know what that means. Like, it's not really an unsafe place if I come in and ask you for a flower arrangement because my candidate won. It's not an unsafe place. Now, if I come in, I'm badgering you and I'm giving you a hard time, well, yeah, that might be an unsafe place. And then we have to do something about it. But just simply ordering something that's not to your liking, that is not an unsafe place. And she has now learned. Hopefully, she's reflecting on this and she will be wiser in her decisions going forward. Doesn't mean that she can't have her same opinions. She can still dislike Trump. She can still dislike Republicans. I presume that she's a liberal, progressive, and she can still be that, have all those same opinions. But maybe this experience will teach her to be a little bit wiser. So that's what I got to say about that. But again, you know, don't be a jerk to people unnecessarily. I mean, there's a time and a place to maybe give somebody a little heat, but that wasn't it. All those comments, if they're legitimate, shame on every one of those people. If they're not legitimate and somebody's just trying to make Trump supporters look bad, really shame on you. You're even more despicable. All right, last thing here. I got a fun story to tell you. This is fun. So there's another picture here. I like this one. So I saw this pop up and it just reminded me of a story. And I was like, I'm going to tell this story. So it's a picture of a military member, and they have their Kevlar helmet on. And on their helmet, they have written, or it looks like they've written, maybe it's, it could be just digitally enhanced, whatever. But it looks like they wrote, "If you shoot me, you're gay, LOL." Now, I wouldn't write that on my helmet, but I know that being in the military, people do write things on their helmet, like soldiers do this. And by the way, the tweet embedded in the picture says World War III happens and you're drafted. What are you writing on your helmet? Right. And they have this picture. It says, if you shoot me, you're gay, LOL. Right. So when I was deploying to Bosnia in 2002, we were doing some training, and um, we were sitting there doing nothing, waiting. And so we started writing on our Kevlar helmets, our helmets. And I tried to draw a target on the side of it to be funny. And it wasn't a very good target. In fact, it might have even been a terrible target. So there I am at the range, chilling, not, just waiting for my turn to go out and do some practice shooting. And somebody from another platoon, it was a lieutenant, a second lieutenant, a butter bar. And he was standing next to me. He was a white guy. And he said, "Soldier, what's on your helmet?" And since I was like an E4, I think I was an E4. So I had to be respectful because he was an officer. So I said, "Sir, that's a very poor drawing of a target." And he said, and I'm thinking this is innocent, like no big deal. So then all of a sudden, he takes it to a new level. He says, "Looks like a spider web to me." Like, "Oh, okay. So I don't, whatever." And I just kind of looked at him. I was like, "Oh, okay." And he goes, "Do you know what that means?" And I was like, "No." And he said, "It means you're racist." Excuse me? What? And and he's like, "My black friend wouldn't appreciate this." And I was like, now I'm still perplexed because I'm like, the hell does a spider web have to do with racism? Like, I have no clue what he's talking about. And then this is where it gets really funny. He he grabs another soldier that's walking by, and he said, "Soldier, come over here." And they come over and they're like, "Yes, sir." And he's like, "What does this look like on his helmet?" And now this soldier doesn't know me. They're just walking by. They didn't see. They said, "Looks like a poorly drawn target." He's like, "Okay, go away." And then he continues to berate me. So like now he's been, it's like, that's like if you're young, that's the old version of community notes. Okay. On Twitter, on social media, that's the old version of being fact checked. He just got fact checked. He got community noted in person by some random soldier that he grabbed up to see what was on my helmet. And I told him very innocently in the beginning. So then he continues to berate me and he's like, next time I see you, it better be gone. And, there's nothing I can do. He's an officer and, I'm starting to be a little bit more mature at this time and get in less trouble than I had been in the past. So I was trying to dial back. So then I go back to my commanding officer, my superior, and I tell him about this. I tell him what's going on. And I was pissed because I had volunteered to go to Bosnia. And I was like, look, I was like, I won't go if this is how I'm going to be treated. We could figure out how to make this not happen. I was like, because this is unacceptable. I said, I will not be talked to like this, not by an officer, not by anybody. And I'm like ranting and raving. I'm throwing a big fit because I'm like, dude, you just accused me of racism and you didn't even give me an opportunity to defend myself. Like, what a jerk. Right. And so the story's not over. So my commanding officer calms me down a little bit, like, okay, cool. So later, I tell all my buddies about it. We all have a good laugh over some beers and whatnot. And so then I'm still kind of annoyed by it because I'm a brooder. Like if you piss me off, I'll probably think about it for like 3 days. And so I'm a brooder. So now I'm thinking about this. So I grab a piece of paper and I draw a spider web. And then I draw a spider hanging from a noose from its own web. And it was holding a sign. Now it's weird because I couldn't draw a target. Like I just did this poorly drawn target, but then I go and I draw. And trust me, it wasn't that great, but you get Like drawing a spider with a couple circles, like an oval circle and a couple legs coming out. It's not very difficult. And the spider web's not very difficult. You just kind of got to do like, like a couple crosses together and then draw some lines together. So we're not talking something very difficult anyway. But I was able to draw a spider web with a spider hanging from a noose from its own web, holding a sign that said end racism. And me and all my buddies had a great laugh. So then I kept it. So then we get to Bosnia and I have it on my locker posted, just for S and Gs. And wouldn't you know it, that same officer happened to come into our barracks one day. And guess who was sweating bullets? This guy, because I'm like, oh crap, he's gonna see that, he might remember it, and I'm gonna be in all kind of trouble now, right? So, so this is my fun story dealing with racism accusations back then. I don't take very kindly to it. So if you accuse me of something and I'm not guilty, um, be prepared. I might come back at you. All right, folks. So that's my story for today. Let's check out and see what other comments that we have. Here's a good option. Going back to the story with the woman, the florist, says she could sell private memberships instead of having it open to the public store. She could. There are many things that you could do. You could say, look, this is a private store, and I'm only accepting subscribers to my store, or people that want to pay support me in some way directly, as long as you're not a Trump voter. Like, she could do that, and I would totally be fine with it. Like, I may not like the idea. I may think it's kind of a dumb idea, but I will support it. And if somebody came to stop her, I would say, whoa, 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 no, it's her business. Let her do as she pleases. Now, keep in mind, while I'm open to you doing many things with your business and trying things out and seeing what hits and what doesn't, if you fail and you go under, no bailouts, none. You're on your own. You made the decision. You took the risk. You deal with the consequences, right? And if you're like, that's fine. I have no issue with that. So let's see here. Let's see. Yeah, here, Time Surfing Alien says, back to my story about racism. My unit would give you an Article 15 for defacing government property. That's always a possibility. I luckily did not get that. And luckily, he did not see my drawing, which was basically making fun of him because I thought it was stupid. And I think years later, I looked it up to see if like spider webs had something to do with racism. And I think I found some very loose links to like spider web tattoos that could be associated with racism. But I'm like, still today, this was in my 20s, this was like 20 some years ago. I'm still kind of unclear exactly what kind of a link there is, if any. But all I know is I'm sure as hell not a racist because I can't draw. That's what I do know. Let's see here. Yes, if she wants to pass up a sale, that's her business. Absolutely. Very quick story. My wife, I have a friend, he is a web developer. And my wife asked him if he wanted to build her a website. Now, he is what you might call an app developer. So he doesn't just build like a front-facing website that communicates some information. He builds like an app that deals with database and interactions between the user and the site. And so there's a little bit more to it. That's what he built. So my wife was asking him if he wanted to build her a website. And he was like, man, he thought about it and he quoted her. And she's like, that seems kind of high. And he was honest. He's like, that's because I don't want to do it. And he said, so because he wasn't interested and he quoted a higher price because that would be where he would become interested, right? He'd be like, look, I don't want to do this for a price that would be reasonable, but I will do it if you're willing to pay an additional premium for my time, right? This is the essence of making decisions, and it's your business. And so effectively what he was doing was he was potentially passing up a sale in a sense. Like, he didn't give her a direct no, because he was like, there is a point for which I will do it, but I don't know that that point is the same point for which you're going to want to pay for it. But I'll give you that option. That's what he did. And he basically made a choice to say, I'm probably going to pass up some money because that's not the kind of work that I want to do. I want to do other things that I feel are more appropriate with my time. Same concept, same guy, and he was totally in his right, and he wasn't rude about it. Just, I mean, he was honest and very polite. So, like, cool, no problem. And my wife understood it. We both understood it. We're all cool with it. Right? Again, you can make whatever decision you want. You can pass up a business. You can overprice so that if you have to in quotes there do the business, then maybe you're getting paid for doing work that you would otherwise not prefer to do. You could do any number of things. There's so many options that you can do. There is no reason for anybody that has an existing business that's already presumably successful, bringing in sufficient revenue to pay the employees, to give you enough money to pay your mortgage and your bills, and maybe even pay you stock some money away for your kid to go to college, all that good stuff. Like there's nothing wrong with any of that. It's all good. The only thing that we need to do is just manage our interactions. And so if you want to interact with people and you want to be angry, well, the public may not take well to it and your business may suffer. All right, folks, that's all I got for today. I will say again, remember, if I'm looking forward to getting out a couple videos next week, at least one, maybe two. Again, it's not yet to be seen how long the video will be. And unless barring something happening, I will have those videos out, drop them out Monday morning, possibly Tuesday morning. But outside of that, I will not be streaming next week. And I will see you guys again on the 2nd of December. So if you celebrate Thanksgiving, please have a great celebration. If you're going to be with friends and family, I hope you enjoy them to the absolute fullest. If you're not, if you're working, if you don't celebrate, whatever, I hope that you just simply have a great week at a very minimum. And so with that, thank you for watching. Hope you found this episode informative and inspiring. Be sure to catch me Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. for an informed discussion on politics and culture. Make sure that you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, or if you prefer my Rumble channel, you can go to youtube.libertydad.com, or you can go to rumble.libertydad.com. While you're there, let me know how I'm doing by leaving me a comment. Last but not least, I want you to remember that if you're if you're a champion of liberty, your business is people and your product is liberty. I want you to have a great week and weekend. Catch you next time. But for now, I'm out.